Hi, so this is Group 3 Material Development Project, and our group members consist of Aimi, Humaira, Ilyana, Farrah and Aliya.
Communicative language teaching CLT method is a student-centered learning aimed to achieve communicative rather than linguistic competence through learning interaction. It is less concerned with grammar accuracy and more concerned with fluency, since it focuses on teaching language to real-world assignments and problem solving. In accordance with its main purpose, we have planned and developed some materials that suit students to prepare them to be confident communicators for different real-life contexts. Using these materials, students are urged to communicate and given the opportunity to do so rather than just learning the language.
The first activity or games is a group activity encouraging students to engage and communicate with their peers. This game is similar to, but not the same as charade, in that it allows students to speak, describe and objectify the image displayed on the flashcards, which could be nouns found in the classroom or in everyday life. The used flashcards will then be discarded to the side because there will be more than 10 flashcards. So how exactly does the activity and the flashcards work? As usual, teachers should provide instructions on how to play the game before it begins. They will be first divided into two groups of students, and then each group will send someone to the front. There will be a wheel of names in front of the representative. The teacher will then spin the wheels and a word will be chosen. Representatives are asked to take turns describing the word, but as a challenge, they must be cautious because the opposite team is listening. For example, if the word chosen is lamp and Representative A describes it as it lights up, and one of Team B's members correctly guesses the word, Team B will receive a point, known as stolen points. So the process of CLT is involved in this game because guessing the correct answer requires direct communication or discussion among team members. To get the most points, they will have to listen, speak and think. Teachers can use this game to introduce new vocabulary. It can be played during the pre-lesson introduction, but only for 2 to 3 rounds before moving on to the next activity. However, this game or activity is best suited or necessary to be played during lesson development, like practice or production, because it can involve all students given the opportunity. So moving on to the next presenter.
Okay, the second activity is map placed around the town. So there are two things that are required to complete this activity. The first one is the map and the teacher's instructions. So a map with various locations is created by the teacher, such as there are school, library, supermarket, mosque, cafe, hospital and bank. How should this activity be done? So the first one, the teacher will assign each student to a group of 4, and then a representative from each group will conduct a draw lots to determine their place. So if they draw and they got the place of bank or maybe supermarket, in the group they have to discuss how to get there using the map. So after that, after 5 minutes of discussion, a representative will go to the front and she or he will state verbally the instructions to go to the location. So for examples, they got the supermarket, the place of supermarket. So how to get there from the pet store to the supermarket? So the answer would be to continue straight before turning right when you see the schools, and then proceed immediately to the traffic light. You will come to another traffic light. If you turn left, then you will reach the supermarket. So during the discussion in the group, the teacher must keep an eye on the group and make sure that each student contributes and interacts with each other in order to ensure that all students participate in the group discussion and that the lessons objectives are met throughout the lesson. So the CLT method is related to this activity that can be included in the lesson development because it requires group discussion and communication from all of the students in a group in order to be the successful activity. They can learn the proper use of the preposition of the place and gain more confidence in speaking verbally in English using English language. So this activity is intended to support the CLT method by encouraging students to communicate in the English language to be interesting. However, not every student can catch up and participate in the activity. So it is advisable to the teacher to just include 4 students in a group so that they feel more confident to speak in a small group discussion. So as a result, to the 4 students in a group discussion, no students will left behind and the activity will be enjoyable for all the students.
The third activity focuses on understanding and analyzing the poem. This simple activity only required the teacher's instruction and a poem with 5 stanzas. How was this activity carried out? First, the students get into groups of 5. Each group will be given the same poem and the students need to discuss the meaning behind each stanza from the poem in about 10 minutes. While the discussion is going, the teacher can facilitate from 1-to-1 group to make sure that the discussion is conducted well with the participation of all students. After 10 minutes, students from each group will be called randomly by the teacher to present the meaning of any stanzas that he or she has chosen. Then, another student from the same group will be called again by the teacher to present the meaning of the whole poem based on their understanding. In this activity, there will be no right or wrong answers, and the teacher should be open to any answers that they have thought of. The process of understanding poetry can build vocabulary, so with this activity, students will learn how to incorporate new words when trying to write or to understand its meaning. This is in accordance with the CLT principle itself, where the communication approach is not limited to only speaking skill. Reading and writing skills should also be developed. Other than that, this activity helps to promote communication among them as they are expected to interact with their group members during the discussion and the presentation. However, this activity might not be easy for some students as they might feel uncomfortable speaking alone in front of the class. Thus, it is advisable for the teacher to allow students to present at least in pairs if there is any, so they will be more confident to speak.
The next activity that focuses on the use of CLT method is Summarize Me. The teacher can conduct this activity by giving students a short story on a paper. In 5 to 10 minutes, the students have to read and digest these short stories. After that, the students have to take turns and present the summary of the short stories in front of the class verbally using their own words on how they understand the stories. The teacher can conduct this activity in 2 ways, whether it will be an individual work or a group work. If it's an individual work, the teacher can just give the students 1 paper each that contains the short story. Give them time to understand, and after 5 to 10 minutes, she or he has to tell the stories to the whole classmates. For the group activity, the teacher can divide the class into smaller groups. In each group, each of them will have different stories. After the time given has ended, they will have to present their own summary to the group members only. This will work better and for students who are afraid to talk in front of a bigger crowd. So this is one of the example of the short story that the teacher can give to the students. With this activity, the teacher can enhance students' competence in speaking English, as not only they have to summarize the stories, but they also indirectly transcribe it in using their own words based on how they understand the stories. This activity can also motivate the students to use English more in interacting with their fellow classmates. They will be more excited as they will talk about fictional stories instead of just factual information. The teacher can differentiate the type of content and support they give to the students. For younger students, it will be better if they are given simpler stories while giving more complicated stories for the older students. The teacher can also make this activity a little bit more challenging by asking the students to provide the moral value they can get from the story.
The last activity that uses the CLT method is roleplay. This activity emphasizes the importance of communication, and it can be carried out as a group activity consisting of 4 to 5 students per group. The teacher acts as a facilitator by preparing a synopsis of the situation the students need to act out. The synopsis is given for guidance and helps the students to comprehend their roles in a better way. The students are allowed to use their creativity to liven up their roles based on the synopsis, and this activity will be carried out in 10 minutes. Then the students are given about 5 minutes to practice and divide the roles among them. And during the practice stage, students may struggle to find appropriate words and phrases. So the teacher can serve as their walking dictionary by providing them with appropriate words and phrases to use. In order to make the activity focus on the students, the teacher can give more time for the students to use dictionaries to look up what they need, and suggesting new vocabulary is a crucial thing that needs to be done because it can assist the students to learn new vocabulary in natural settings, especially for low proficiency students. During the roleplay, the students might make mistakes by using incorrect words or phrases and grammatical errors when delivering their lines. The teacher should record the roleplay session in order to do error correction right after the students finish acting out, because it is not permissible to interrupt and correct them during the roleplay activity. The video recording will be played and the student will be given the opportunity to self-correct their mistakes by listening to the dialogue again and reflecting on the words and phrases used. Then the mistakes and errors can also be written on the whiteboard so that the whole class can take notes too. However, the teacher needs to negotiate with the students by asking them on how they would like to be corrected, because the mistakes must be corrected in a proper way so that the students would not feel demotivated to speak in front of the class in the next activity. Overall, each of the materials that were discussed has its own strengths and weaknesses. It is up to the teacher to adapt the task and the subject matter to the learning preferences and styles of the students. It is advisable for the teachers to always understand and be aware of their own students' learning preferences in order to make the learning impactful and meaningful using the materials provided. There are a few suggestions for the teacher regarding on how to handle both extrovert and introvert students, including conducting the activity in groups or individually. The CLT method is actually advantageous for the students because it allows them to communicate with one another without worrying about being penalized for grammatical mistakes. However, if students are making the same mistakes over and over again, the teacher must still correct them.
So that's it from us. Thank you.